I will never forget the night I discovered the truth. Amaka was standing right behind me, close enough that I could feel her breath on my neck. I looked into the mirror, brushing my hair slowly. But in the glass, there was only me. Amaka was not there. My hands froze. My mouth went dry. "Chioma, what is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. I pointed at the mirror with shaking fingers. You're gone." She frowned, stepping closer. But no matter how many times I blinked, the mirror showed nothing. The girl who had been my best friend since childhood was invisible in her own reflection. A heavy silence filled the room. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. That was when I knew something dark had happened to Amaka, something no ordinary makeup artist could explain. But how did we get here? It all began a few weeks ago, when a name started spreading like wildfire in Port Harcourt. A name every bride, every influencer, every actress whispered with awe. A woman who could turn you into someone unrecognizable. Not through filters, not through editing. With her touch alone. Her name was Madame Orifa. And once you entered her studio, your life would never be the same again. Some said she was simply talented. Others believed she had a secret formula. But those who had seen her work called it something else entirely, magic. Amaka had been the first to chase that magic. And now, she was fading before my eyes. Her glow was only the beginning. Her fall had just begun. Before that night, before the mirror went empty, all I ever heard in Port Harcourt was one name, Madame Orifa. She wasn't like the other makeup artists you see every day on Instagram. No. She was different. Her work wasn't just good, it was unbelievable. Women who looked plain in the morning walked out of her studio looking like queens by evening. Dark spots vanished, scars disappeared, lips fuller, eyes brighter. By the time she was done, it was as if the woman staring back was born again. People said Orifa never begged for clients. She didn't need to. Her clients advertised her for free. Every transformation went viral. Every wedding photo that carried her touch sparkled brighter than the rest. Soon, Nollywood actresses, politicians' wives, even pastors' daughters whispered her name with reverence. She changed my life, some said. She's the secret behind my success, others claimed. And yet, not everyone had the chance to sit in her chair. She was expensive. Exclusive. To see her, you had to pay what most families spent in 3 months. Her cheapest service? 200,000 naira. But for those who could afford it, the reward was instant. Overnight fame. Attention. Wealth. Still, there were strange stories too. Quiet whispers people tried to ignore. Some said a few of her clients disappeared from the spotlight. Their pages went quiet, their glow dimmed, and no one saw them again. Others believed those were just rumors, jealous talk from competitors who couldn't match her skill. But one thing was certain, once Madame Orifa touched you, you never stayed the same. Amaka heard her name once, and she could not rest until she booked her. Amaka had always wanted more. Since we were little girls, she dreamt of bright lights, cameras, and crowds shouting her name. While I was content with simple things, Amaka wanted fame. She wanted to be seen, loved, admired. But fame is not easy to catch. For months, she tried everything: makeup tutorials, TikTok dances, Instagram reels. She borrowed clothes, used filters, even begged friends to share her videos. But still, her page grew slowly. Every day she scrolled through influencers who lived the life she wanted, and I could see the hunger in her eyes. Then one night, Amaka burst into my room, her phone glowing in her hand. "Chioma, see this woman," she said, shoving the screen into my face. It was Madame Orifa. The video showed a dull, tired-looking bride on her wedding morning. But by the time Orifa was done, she looked like royalty. Her skin glowed like polished gold. Her eyes shone like stars. She looked untouchable. "Do you see it?" Amaka whispered, her voice shaking. "This is the key. This is what I need." I frowned. "It's just makeup, Amaka. Don't fool yourself." But Amaka shook her head. "No. This is not ordinary makeup. They say she uses something called moon dust. It's only for special clients. That's why her work looks like magic." From that moment, Amaka could not sleep. She talked about Orifa every day, as if her life depended on it. 1 week later, She sold her last gold chain, added the little savings she had, and smiled at me with excitement. "I've booked her," she said. "Madame Orifa. Next week, my own transformation begins." The day finally came. Amaka dressed in her best outfit, sprayed her last drop of designer perfume, and left for Madame Orifa's studio. She was so excited she barely ate. I watched her go with mixed feelings, fear, curiosity, and a little jealousy. Hours passed. By evening, my phone buzzed. "Open the gate," she texted. When I stepped outside, I froze. The woman walking toward me looked like Amaka, but not the Amaka I knew. Her skin was smooth, glowing like candlelight. Her lips were fuller, her lashes long, her face sculpted like a goddess. She looked flawless, untouchable, almost unreal. "Chioma," she whispered, smiling. "Do you see me now?" I couldn't speak. She looked like a celebrity. Like the women on magazine covers we used to admire. But as I stared, I noticed something strange: her eyes. They weren't warm and playful like before. They looked empty. Still, Amaka didn't notice. She twirled around, laughing. "This is my time. Watch me shine." That night, she posted her pictures online. Within hours, her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Likes poured in. Comments flooded her page. Followers tripled before morning. Brands slid into her DMs, promising money and fame. Amaka was finally happy. She said Madame Orifa was a blessing from heaven. But I couldn't shake the unease in my chest. Because while her skin glowed like the moon, her laughter didn't sound like Amaka's anymore. It was hollow. And when she looked at her reflection in the mirror that night, she smiled, but her eyes didn't follow. Something inside her had changed. Something I couldn't name. For 6 days, Amaka lived like a queen. Everywhere we went, people turned their heads. In the market, strangers whispered her name. On the street, men stopped to look. Online, her posts went viral. She was the star she always wanted to be. But on the 7th day, it began. We were walking through Mile 1 Market when I noticed something strange. The women who usually admired her makeup didn't even glance her way. A seller even brushed past her shoulder without a word, as if she wasn't there. "Chioma, did you see that?" Amaka whispered, her smile fading. I laughed nervously. Maybe they're just busy. But deep down, I felt the truth pressing on my chest. That night, Amaka posted a new picture. We waited for the usual flood of comments and likes. Minutes passed. Then hours. But this time, nothing. Not a single like. Not even one view. "Something is wrong," she muttered, refreshing the page over and over. By the next morning, her followers had dropped to 0. Her profile looked abandoned, like nobody ever cared. Her glow started dimming too. The flawless skin dulled, her lips lost their shine, her face looked tired again. Only her eyes remained strange, hollow, restless, like something inside was struggling to stay alive. And then came the moment that broke us both. Amaka stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair. I was beside her. I looked into the glass, and my blood ran cold. I could see myself. But Amaka, she was standing right there, had no reflection. Her body was in the room, but in the mirror, she was gone. That was the night I realized, Madame Orifa's gift was no blessing. It was a curse. After the night of the missing reflection, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amaka's empty space in the mirror. Something dark was at work, and I needed answers. The next morning, while Amaka stayed in bed staring blankly at her phone, I began asking questions. I started small, checking social media. I searched for names of women who had once gone viral after visiting Madame Orifa. At first, I found their old videos, their glowing photos, their perfect faces. They were once stars, just like Amaka had become. But where were they now? One by one, I realized their pages had gone silent. Some had no posts for years. Some had disappeared completely. It was as if they never existed. I refused to stop there. I asked around quietly, speaking to hairdressers, photographers, even wedding planners who had worked with Orifa's clients. Slowly, the truth came out. One woman who had once been the face of a big fashion brand was now selling roasted plantain by the roadside. Another, a popular YouTuber, was spotted hawking second-hand clothes in a junction. Their beauty was gone. Their fame was gone. Their lives had crumbled. Finally, I found one of them, Ngozi the YouTuber. She looked older than her age, her skin rough, her clothes worn. When I asked her what happened, her eyes filled with tears. She pulled me close and whispered, "She didn't steal my beauty. She stole my destiny, my star." Her words cut through me like a knife. I knew then that Madame Orifa was not just a makeup artist. She was something far darker. And if I didn't act fast, Amaka would lose more than her reflection. She would lose herself. I thought I was safe. I thought only Amaka was caught in Madame Orifa's net. But I was wrong. It began with a notification. One night, as I scrolled through my phone, I froze. My latest picture had a new like. When I checked the name, my heart almost stopped. Madame Orifa. Not only had she liked the photo, she had commented beneath it, "This glow belongs to me." My phone slipped from my hand. I stared at the screen, my chest pounding. How did she find me? Why me? The next morning, Amaka ran into my room, her face pale. She was holding a black card in her hand. Thick, glossy, with golden letters written across it. "There's no name," she whispered, trembling. "But look at the words." I took the card and read aloud. "You've been chosen." At the bottom was an address, Old Gra Port Harcourt. Amaka shook her head violently. "Chioma, don't go. Please. That's how it starts. That's how she traps you." But something inside me refused to run. I needed answers. I needed to see Madame Orifa with my own eyes. That night, I slipped the black card into my bag and left. The streets of Old Gra were silent, the air heavy. At the end of a narrow lane stood a mansion, tall, dark, and glowing faintly with candlelight. As I pushed open the gate, I heard whispers, soft, strange, almost musical. Inside, mirrors lined the walls. But none showed my reflection. Instead, they shimmered with faint images of women, faces glowing, eyes empty. And then, the whispers stopped. She stepped into the hall. Madame Orifa. Tall. Ageless. Dressed in a flowing red robe. Her eyes locked on mine, and she smiled. "We've been waiting for you." The hall was filled with shadows. Candles flickered against the walls, their light bouncing off the endless mirrors. But none of the mirrors showed me. Instead, they showed strangers, women glowing like goddesses, their beauty so sharp it almost hurt to look at. They sat in a circle, silent, dressed in white gowns that shimmered faintly under the candlelight. At first, I thought they were dolls. Their faces were perfect, their makeup flawless. But then I saw their eyes. Empty. Lifeless. Like their bodies were present, but their souls had gone elsewhere. Amaka's words echoed in my head, "That's how she traps you." I wanted to run. My legs screamed to move. But the air felt heavy, pulling me deeper inside. Then, Madame Orifa's voice broke the silence. Smooth, soft, almost comforting. "We don't steal beauty," she said, walking gracefully into the circle. "We only take what you willingly give. In return, you stay radiant forever." The women in the circle all turned their heads towards me at once. Their lips curved into smiles, but their eyes remained hollow. My skin prickled. My chest tightened. Madame Orifa raised her hand, and one of the women stood up. She was breathtaking, her skin glowing like sunlight, her hair flowing like silk. But when she walked closer, I noticed her feet dragged as though they carried a heavy chain. "She was once like you," Orifa whispered, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. "Ordinary. Invisible. Forgotten. But now? Look at her. Eternal." The woman smiled wider, but a tear slid down her cheek. And in that moment, I understood. They weren't clients. They were prisoners. My heart beat so loud I thought it would break through my chest. Madame Orifa stepped closer, her robe dragging softly against the marble floor. Up close, she was flawless. Not a wrinkle, not a single blemish. Her skin glowed like the moon, her lips full, her eyes sharp and piercing. I couldn't tell if she was 25 or 60. She looked both young and ancient. "Do you know why you are here, Chioma?" she asked, her voice smooth, almost motherly. I stayed silent. She smiled. "You are curious. And curiosity is powerful. But power always has a price. She raised her hands, and suddenly, the mirrors around the hall began to shift. One by one, they showed the women who had once been her clients. I saw them as they used to be, famous, beautiful, adored. Then the images flickered, and I saw them now, forgotten, broken, shadows of themselves. People think I steal beauty, she said, her voice echoing in the hall. But beauty fades. What I take is far more valuable. Her eyes locked onto mine. I take destiny. The circle of women bowed their heads, as if in agreement. When they come to me, they are desperate. Hungry for fame. Desperate to be seen. I give them what they want, light, glow, power. But when their shine fades, I collect what they offered me, their star. She leaned closer, whispering so soft I almost didn't hear. That is how I remain eternal. That is why I never age. I stepped back, my hands trembling. Now it all made sense. Amaka's fading reflection. Ngozi's lost career. The whispers in Port Harcourt. They hadn't lost their beauty. They had lost their very lives. The room grew colder. The women in the circle began to hum, a low sound that shook the air. Their hollow eyes never left me. Madame Orifa extended her hand. Her long fingers sparkled with rings, each one glowing faintly. Join us, Chioma, she said softly. Give me your star. In return, you will never be forgotten. For a moment, I felt it, her pull. My body leaned forward against my will. My mind whispered, what if she's right? What if this is the only way to shine? Then I heard Amaka's voice in my head, the old Amaka, before the glow, before the emptiness. Chioma, promise me you'll never let me disappear. I shook my head violently. No. Orifa's smile faded. Her eyes turned cold, sharp like glass. The humming grew louder, the women's bodies trembling as if controlled by strings. Desperate, I grabbed one of the mirrors and smashed it against the floor. The room screamed. The women clutched their heads, their glow flickering like dying candles. Orifa staggered back, her perfect face cracking for the first time. Behind the mirrors, I saw their true selves, shadows chained, crying, begging to be free. Stop. Orifa shrieked, her voice no longer smooth but ancient, broken. But I didn't stop. I shattered mirror after mirror until the hall shook. The women collapsed, their eyes filling with life again. Amaka appeared beside me, gasping, her reflection finally returning to the glass. The last thing I saw was Orifa's face twisting, her glow burning out like a dying star. Then, darkness. When I woke, I was outside the mansion. The card in my hand had turned to ash. Amaka was beside me, her eyes full of tears. Chioma, you saved me. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. In Port Harcourt, someone else would still be searching for Madame Orifa.